Hi Miranda, my name's Brooke Collins. Today I'm going to present to you my medication safety awareness poster. Medication safety, a National Safety and Quality Health Service standard. The National Safety and Quality Health Service standard of medication safety was not maintained on the ward when finding incomplete medication charting from the previous day. The systems implemented in this standard are to reduce the risk of medication incidents from occurring and were not considered once identifying incomplete documentation and continuing to provide person-centred care. Medication management processes are designed to improve safety through initiatives aimed at addressing the most common factors that contribute to medication errors, including transcription errors and failure in documentation, though in this case the staff overlooked the error and delayed an appropriate response. Clinical issue. A dose of subcutaneous heparin, scheduled for 1700 the previous day, had not been signed on the medication chart at the beginning of the following AM shift. Nursing staff discussed amongst themselves about the possibility of the medication being given or forgotten, rather than calling the nurse that was on shift at the time of the incomplete documentation. This is a huge clinical issue because rather than discussing with the person who would have initially administered the medication, the assumption is made about whether or not it had been given based on staff that were on the ward at the time and may have not been fully aware. Being a prophylactic and essential to the patient, the importance of confirming whether the dose had been given to then decide the appropriate course of action was overlooked. Instead, the decision was made to wait until the relevant nurse arrived for her shift later that afternoon to discuss this error and determine whether the patient received the medication prescribed. The uncertainty of this situation and making assumptions about medication administration is inappropriate and does not meet the medication safety standards. This puts the patient at risk of further complications, promotes the lack of communication and safe practice, while failing to provide person-centred care. Literature review. The appropriate action in this circumstance, following the medication safety standard, is for the initial administering nurse to ensure that the medication chart was documented correctly and signed upon administration of any medication. In the event that human error does occur, and the chart is mistakenly not signed, a suitable action to rectify the situation and gain understanding of the event that took place on the shift in question would be for the staff to have contacted the nurse to clarify whether the medication had been administered or not, providing the staff with an adequate understanding of the concern, allowing them to act in a timely manner had the heparin dose not been administered, as it was unsigned. This could have occurred when the staff for the overnight shift began and checked over their charts, though it was not discovered until the following morning. Recommendations based on evidence-based practice. Recommendations that I provided based on this circumstance: the ward to follow a clarification checklist. At the beginning and ending of each shift, staff members are encouraged to recheck and confirm all of their documentation is appropriately completed and that of the staff member being taken over, encouraging the importance of medication safety and appropriate documentation. In doing this, that will provide the staff with the opportunity to double check everything, make sure that everything is signed off, even being the two-person checklist, being the person that's on shift and the person that's taking over the shift. It just provides a double up, ensuring that everything is checked over, completed appropriately, not just for medication charts, but for all of the patient charting. The next one is communication between the staff. So an improvement in that and the development of such could be implemented through discussion and collaboration amongst the ward staff to promote a cohesive understanding of the expectations and processes required to maintain patient safety at all times. Improving the communication between the staff members on the ward provides an opportunity for them to have more understanding and deeper knowledge of what is expected when it comes to situations like this. Although people do prefer to not be interrupted while they're at home and not on work time, it is important and definitely necessary for this situation that the staff was contacted outside of work hours, just for confirmation of whether or not the medication had been given and had been forgotten to be signed, or if it hadn't been given at all. Another recommendation from myself is staff education. So the education of the staff on the ward through an email or an in-service, allowing each member of the team to identify the relevance and benefits in taking a small amount of time of their shift to reduce the potential of a medication incident. This is through the correct documentation and adequate communication amongst the staff and keeping in regulation with the medication safety standard. The education and awareness gained through clinical media and informative sessions provide staff with the knowledge and confidence to identify and maintain the National Safety and Quality Health Service standard guidelines, in particular the medication safety standard. The unsatisfactory handling of a medication incident leads to recommended practice improvement strategies being provided for staff of this particular ward to implement in order to maintain an appropriate, safe and consistent care delivery standard with focus on the documentation and administration of medications.